Now for more on China's political season, Josef Gregory Mahoney joins me now from Shanghai. He's a professor of politics and international relations at East China Normal University. Great to see you again, Professor.
Good to see you.
Well, in your opinion, what do you think will be the government's top legislative priorities, and what will you be watching for?
Well, many seem to think that Premier Li will offer a growth target of 4.5 to 5.5%. Some analysts believe 4.5% is more reasonable, while a growing consensus anticipates 5. Either way, given principles articulated in December during the annual Economic Work Conference, the emphasis will be on pushing for growth instead of prioritizing structural reforms. Now, while there are some concerns this could create a reform stasis that could undermine future growth and increase risks of a future middle-income trap, we do expect the MPC will address at least two areas of concern, the property market and local debt. Simultaneously, the government will move likely forward to build what it calls a new economy driven by new productive forces to capitalize on areas where the Chinese economy has comparative advantages. For example, in the new 3 industries that include solar panels, EVs, and batteries, while also pushing forward new tech abilities like AI to improve productivity at state-owned enterprises. We also expect some possible new investment in core tech-related R&D. Some people expect some easier fiscal policy, possibly allowing more deficit spending at the central government level to stimulate growth. We expect to see some additional stimulus policies that could target specific cities, regions, or industries, as opposed to the sort of blanket approaches that were used in 2009 and 2010 in the wake of the global financial crisis. We expect policies addressing youth unemployment and perhaps unemployment insurance for migrant workers. We also expect insights into government plans for dealing with demographic challenges, given China's aging population. We don't expect significant adjustments with respect to Hong Kong, Taiwan, or foreign policy. Rather, the key will be focusing on the domestic economy and the various reforms that are needed to push that forward.
Do you think we'll hear much when it comes to the issue of national security in the next 2 weeks?
You know, that has been a major topic for the last several years. It's in some people's minds, it's always overshadowing and perhaps playing a dominant role. Clearly, this will be something that people pay a lot of attention to. My sense is that the government has found the right balance, and we won't hear a lot about it. We'll hear some things. It'll clearly be some boilerplate aspects and maybe a few little laws or reforms passed in that direction. But I think the government is keen to show that it's not going to let securitization diminish growth or recovery, which is the priority at this point.
Professor, in the past year, especially since the last 2 sessions, we've seen a lot of outward diplomacy by China, a lot of face-to-face interaction, and a lot of travel around the world. What do you think international China watchers will be keen to hear? Can we expect anything there?
Well, as your lead-in noted, we probably won't hear, as we heard last year, some of the critical comments from the top leadership directed towards the United States. Some people say that we're in a period of mini détente following the meetings on the sidelines of APEC in San Francisco. And it does seem to be the case that China, at the least, and certainly in local reporting, has not emphasized any sort of vitriol towards the U.S. I think China at this point is really cognizant of the fact that they've gotten things where they want in terms of, or possibly the best possible situation that they can have right now with the U.S. in terms of this sort of lull or peaceful moment in what had otherwise been a very fractious period. China is moving forward on other fronts in diplomacy, but I think that the key here, again, is that most Chinese people are not that interested in foreign policy this year. What they're most focused on is domestic policy and economic policy, and that's where the government's going to put its emphasis.
Couple of days away, how would you explain the 2 sessions to people outside of China? And if they don't know a lot, what can they learn by this process?
Well, this is the major annual meeting of the National Legislature, the NPC, and the top advisory group, the CPPCC. For many, as I've already suggested, the highlight is the Premier's work report, which will detail achievements from the past year. and plans going forward. His comments related to economic policy will be closely watched around the world, likely to move markets in so much as it's going to offer key insights on growth targets, priorities, possible structural reforms, and so on. The MPC will vote on whether to accept the work report or to request various changes. The MPC will also hear work reports from other key government organs and likewise budget reviews from the central to provincial levels. There may be key state personnel changes made if approved by the legislators, and high-level press conferences, including one from the foreign minister and the premier if tradition holds. Concurrently, the CPPC will be held with a multitude of members drawn from across Chinese society, including schools and universities, the tech world, sports and entertainment figures, minority groups, mass organizations like the one that represents women, and so on, to offer policy proposals and likewise provide their perspectives on new policies from the MPC, further enhancing what China calls whole process people's democracy.
It is a sight to see. Professor Josef Gregory Mahoney, thank you for joining us from Shanghai.